Hey, welcome to Cross Central Designs. Today I have a lovely cross wreath for you. Cross wreaths can be created in so many ways. All greenery, all flowers, a mixture of greenery and flowers, and deco mesh as well. This one I created with smaller flowers, primarily lavender, with lots of greenery and a beautiful bow. These cross wreaths can be beautiful on a door, in the home, in a church, and the cemetery as well. Okay, let's get busy making this beautiful cross wreath. Let's look at the materials that we'll need to make this wreath. This is a cross wreath frame from Dollar Tree. I have 2 rolls of this green burlap ribbon from Dollar Tree, and I have ribbon to make a bow. These are both Celebrate ribbons from Michaels. One is a white burlap, or kind of an off-white burlap, and a beautiful orchid and white striped fabric ribbons. And I have an assortment of florals and greenery. As always, when I make a piece, I like to have lots to choose from. I buy my florals primarily at Hobby Lobby every other week. They're 40% off. Lots pretty lavender there. And my greenery as well, always at Hobby Lobby. This is my favorite greenery I use on most everything. And this one as well. And I have some greenery pieces with longer kind of viney type stems, if that's a word. And this is a beautiful greenery that I get at Hobby Lobby, also one of my favorites. And I have a bag of leaves. And that's going to be very important later on. I'll tell you how I use those leaves in that bag. We need a pair of scissors, a pipe cleaner, and of course a glue gun. We're going to start by preparing the cross wreath frame. Now we're going to take this green burlap wired ribbon that I got at Dollar Tree, and we're just going to wrap this entire wreath frame with that ribbon. So just start it off in the beginning by applying a little bit of hot glue, and you're just going to wrap that entire frame. Doesn't really matter how you do it, or even if it's not pretty, because it's not going to be seen. This wrapping of the wreath is providing a place to glue the florals and the greenery to, and even in some cases, depending on how, which direction you're applying the greenery and florals. In some cases, you can actually stick the stems down in between the ribbon. And this is a great way to construct this wreath and have everything adhere very well. So here we have the finished wrapped wreath frame. As I said, doesn't have to be pretty. Doesn't matter. It's going to be completely covered. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and make our bow for this wreath. Now I want a nice long tail because this is a 1.5 inch ribbon, and I'm going to want to coil or curl those ribbons going down the sides of that wreath frame. So I want to leave plenty of tails to do that, and you'll see how I do that later on. So I'm going to do a 3-loop bow on each side, or 6 loops altogether. Now I do place my bow, as I do most every time I do a piece. I place it up against the wreath or whatever it is I'm making, just to make sure that my loops and the size of my bow is conducive to the piece. So that's my last loop on one side, And I'm going to snip that off, remembering that I want a long tail on the other side as well. So try and create the same length tail there when you cut it off from the spool. You're going to wrap your pipe cleaner around it. Those loops, give it a good twist. If you want to see a slower, methodical tutorial on how I make bows, I have 3 bow tutorials, which I will list in the description box. This is going to be the base of my bow, and it is going to go directly in the center of that cross wreath frame. Now I'm going to make a bow to go on top of that base bow. I make the loops just a very tiny bit smaller. I don't use a ruler or any way of measuring my loops. I do it by eyeballing the loops and in accordance to the size of my piece. And I find it easier to construct my bows this way rather than to be measuring and being concerned about making everything absolutely perfect by the ruler. This way I do it by my eye, so to speak, and I find that's a very successful method. I'm going to wrap the pipe cleaner around that. It's going to be 3 loops on each side, 6 loops altogether. Secured in the middle with the pipe cleaner. Now on this top tier to this mixed ribbon bow, we're going to be putting 1 loop right down the center, and I'm showing you there. I just fold it under and catch it with my thumb. Doing it again, catching it with my thumb, pushing it down inside of there. Now I'm going to bring that pipe cleaner from around the back, push it right through the loop, bring it around the back, pull it tight, and give it a twist. Now remember, tails you want to be somewhat equal. Now we're going to take that tail on top and insert it right into that center loop, pull it through, and marry the tails up on the bottom there of that bow. Notice how I tug at my loops and spread my fingers out to pull everything really tight and make sure I have everything just the way I want it. And there we have our 6 loop bow, 3 loops on each side. Now we're going to take that pipe cleaner and place it vertical, coming out the top of that bow and out the bottom. We're going to rest it right on top of the base. Separate the tails right down the middle. Separate the tails on the base as well, because we're going to be inserting the pipe cleaner right down the middle there, and I want it between those tails. And there's our pipe cleaner wrapped around. Come around the back, and you're going to press that really, really, really firmly together, those 2 bows together, and give it a good twist in the back. So everything's all secure now. This orchid stripe ribbon is so pretty with the lavender that we're going to be using on this cross wreath. Just beautiful. And there we have it. So you can see approximately how big the bow is going to be on that cross wreath. Now you do you. There's, like I said, there's so many ways to do a cross wreath. Let me show you on paper how we're going to be designing this cross wreath, if I could speak. And this is important to know which direction you're going to be placing your greenery and your florals. Now you see right down the center is where I'm going to be placing my greenery, out to the sides on each side and up to the top. Now notice the arrows, if you can see them there. They indicate which direction your greenery and your florals are going to go. For the longer piece of that frame, they're going to be pointing downward. And I'm showing you there with the arrows. On the sides, they're going to be pointing out to the side. You're not going to be poking your greenery straight in. It's going to be pointing either upward, as I'm showing you there, or out to the sides, as I'm showing you there, or straight down toward the lower end of the cross, as I'm indicating by my hand there and my finger there. I'll show you a little bit closer. So when I start applying my greenery and my florals, hopefully this will make sense. You see that it's very important how you place your greenery and which direction you have it facing, if you will. Okay, so I'm showing you there. Okay, so now we are going to start laying out the greenery and creating a base. You've heard me, if you watch my tutorials, talk about creating a base, whether you're doing a wreath or a piece like this. I'm going to start laying out my greenery. This is where I'm going to be placing all of my lavender pieces, some of my other little filler pieces, any additional pieces that I add on top of the greenery. Now I was able to actually stick the stem right inside that ribbon, which really worked out well, but I do use hot glue to secure everything. Now I use Gorilla Hot Glue. I find that Gorilla Hot Glue holds up very well in the elements, and I live in a very hot area in Florida, and I do not have a problem with my wreaths falling apart with hot glue. But if you are concerned about that, you can also wrap your pieces with a green floral wire. That's up to you, whatever you're comfortable with. As I said, I find Gorilla Hot Glue, not other types of glue, but Gorilla Hot Glue specifically does the trick for me. And I make a lot of wreaths, and my clients never complain that their wreaths are falling apart. Okay, so on this case, now you could see the greenery pointing downward. I was able also to stick this right inside that ribbon, which worked out really, really well. Now notice when I put my greenery on the ends, whether it's the bottom or those two, the arms of the cross, so to speak, I let my greenery extend beyond the actual frame. You see right there? Okay. So I'm showing you there, because this is the way we're going to create the specific design of the wreath. I want those ends to extend a little bit beyond the edge of the wreath frame. Now I'm going to start laying my middle pieces. Now notice how I face those pieces. Those specific ones on the long piece facing down. The pieces on the, let's call them arms of the cross, those are facing outward. And then the piece at the top, those face upward. I lay everything out first. You can always fan out your greenery once you have it applied. And by fanning out, I mean just pull it so that it sticks out a little bit more on each side, just by arranging the greenery with your fingers. We'll do a lot more of that later. For right now, we just want to get all that greenery or that base in place so we can start applying everything else that's going to go on the wreath. Now I'm changed. I'm going to my different greenery now. Now I don't cover up the greenery that I just put on there. I try and insert it within that base greenery that I already applied, if that makes sense. I don't want to cover it up. I want those two to kind of intermingle, if that makes sense. So again, I'm laying all these pieces out, mostly because I want to be sure that I have enough greenery for each of those sections of the cross to make it look symmetrical. So if I lay them out first, I'll know for sure if I am on track with my plan. Because there's always a big plan for every piece. I generally, you saw that book that I had, the diagram, and lots of times I sketch out my designs before I even do them. I really think them out thoroughly. Okay, so here we go. I have everything all glued on. Now, obviously you can see a lot of that green ribbon showing there, but we'll take care of all of that. In the end, you will see no green burlap ribbon at all. Now, because this ribbon has such a presence on this cross, I am going to go ahead and apply it now and then create all of my embellishments around it. Now, I glue my bow down. You can use a pipe cleaner and wrap it around, and just be sure that the pipe cleaner is buried within the greenery so you don't see it. Or you can use a floral wire. Now I'm showing you a black floral wire there, but of course they sell green, and you could use that. You could use a pipe cleaner. That's a little bit of a funky green for this, but I was just showing you to give you options. For me, I use hot glue. Now, if you are creating a wreath that's going to be placed directly in the elements, such as at a cemetery, you may want to use a little bit of floral wire just to secure everything. Even after the wreath is all finished, you can go around and kind of feed your floral wire through your project and just secure it on the back. Just kind of wind it and weave it through just to give it some extra security. It's up to you if you're concerned about that. I think the Gorilla Hot Glue will be fine. You can only expect a wreath out in the full sun and all the elements to last so long anyway. But if you really, really want to be sure that it's 100%, you can weave some thin floral wire through there. This particular wreath is not going to be outside, so I'm just doing Gorilla Glue for this one. Now I'm cutting my lavender pieces. Notice which way they're facing, just like I showed you in the diagram. This one's going to be facing downward. Those ones on the arm of the cross on each side are facing outward. Now I believe this one is going to go on top. Get the tag off of there. Oh, I put it on the bottom. Now notice how I let my lavender not just go straight down, but angled to the sides. And I showed you that on the diagram as well. Those little arrows that I had kind of pointing at an angle. This is the effect you want to see. How I put that in there? You want to let your pieces point just a little bit off to the side. Not everything straight down the middle, but a little bit of variance in that and pointing off to the side. And this is a lavender bunch from Hobby Lobby that has a few other little pretty elements in it. It was kind of a mixture of lavender and some other little orchid flowers. Now, always, as in any floral piece, you want to start looking to create symmetry and balance. We're always going for texture and color. Texture, a lot you can achieve through your greenery. On this piece, I believe I used maybe five or six different types of greenery. This is how you create texture. And I'm showing you there. Angle your floral pieces that you're sticking in there. See how I'm showing you with my hand there. I just angle them off to the side a bit. And here we have a lot of that greenery and the florals inserted in there. I'm adding another type of greenery there. I was just holding it up for you there. I still go around and add greenery. I do have my base greenery, but then I also add additional greenery to frame and complement the floral pieces that I'm putting in there. Now I'm trying out, I feel like I want just a touch of white in there, but I don't make my decision about pieces until I see it inserted, and I kind of stand back a bit and look at it. Now I was wondering, do I really want to put those little baby roses in there? Because it's not quite the right purple, but the only way to convince myself yes or no is to actually stick them in there and just see how it looks. That's why I don't glue anything right away. This allows me the opportunity to change my mind and make a decision based on the best color and florals for a particular piece. And in this case, I decided no. So I pulled them back out. Okay, so I had a little greenery that had, not greenery, but a floral piece. I keep trying to use that, and then I go, no. I just, for some reason, just did not want that white piece that you just saw me holding. I had some greenery in my stash that had some little white, just little, I guess, looks kind of sort of like baby's breath. It added just a touch of white. It was really kind of the look I was going for. So I just inserted that in there, and I was happy. It kind of brought out the white in that beautiful orchid and white bow. Lots of visual interest, lots of different types of greenery. And again, here we go. I'm adding another type of greenery. And I like this greenery, which I got from Hobby Lobby, because I'm going to create the illusion that this is trailing through this floral piece. So I insert it in there, and I can manipulate the wire to make it look like the piece is kind of weaving, if you will, through the floral piece. That's the illusion I'm trying to create there. And it also gives just one more element of greenery, which just looks so beautiful on a piece. Greenery, greenery, greenery. Never underestimate what it can do for your piece. Now you see how that looks? It most looks like it was trailing through or weaving its way through that floral piece. This greenery bunch also had some shorter pieces, so I took advantage of that just to insert some to fill in any spots that I felt needed to be filled. I have my little finger protector on there because initially when I was gluing down that greenery, I was just burning the heck out of myself. You might have seen me jump a couple times. And so I put the finger protector on. Oh my goodness. That hot glue really hurts. Look how pretty. This piece is coming along beautifully. See all the different elements? Now, we are going to address that green ribbon, which is rather unsightly if you ask me, from that wreath frame. But I have the perfect solution to cover it up. And here comes my bag of leaves. I've mentioned to you in previous videos that I don't throw away any leaves. I save them. I very often insert them in wreaths when I make a wreath. And in this case, they are coming in extremely handy because I am going to use these individual leaves to cover up that green ribbon. I do not want that to show at all. From any angle that you look at this cross wreath, I do not want to see that green burlap ribbon. Oh, so pretty, huh? So pretty. Okay, so what we're going to do is take those leaves that I was just mentioning. Now, it doesn't matter what kind of leaves they are. In fact, the more variety, the merrier, if you ask me, because I love lots of different types of greenery. But you can use any type of leaves. You can mix it all up. Different shapes, different sizes, different shades. It doesn't matter. It's only going to add more beauty and visual interest to this piece. So what I do is on the underside of the leaf, I put a little bit of hot glue and I set it right on that green burlap ribbon. And I kind of face my leaves this way and that way. And I'm going to do that around the entire perimeter of that wreath frame. And this is going to cover up all of that green, unsightly burlap ribbon. Now, one piece of advice I would give you that really looks pretty is if you have any long, thin leaves that are like pointy, I would guess you would say, put those on the ends of your wreath frame, at the bottom, on the two arms, and on the top, because it creates kind of a point, the illusion of a point, which I think looks really pretty coming off the ends of the wreath frame. And now I'm going to take care of those tails, and I'm going to angle my ends of my ribbon, and I'm going to start curling and coiling those ribbons. Now, I often on a piece, especially like this, especially if this piece is going to be out in the elements, I take a dab of hot glue, and once I decide exactly how I want those ribbons to be placed, I'll take a little dab of glue and let it adhere to the structures around it, meaning the leaves, or if it's a floral. Once I have my ribbons positioned, just so that the look of the wreath and the coiling or the curling of those ribbons, so that it stays in place, I just add a little dab of glue, and then I'm sure that it will just hold its shape and stay just like I like it for the long term. Beautiful. Oh, I love it. I can imagine this cross wreath in so many different combinations, roses or sunflowers, or just all greenery with all different types of greenery. That would be beautiful as well. It's just beautiful. On the back, you can put a pipe cleaner to make a hanger for this piece. And here we have the finished piece. If you like what you see on my channel, please think about subscribing. Hit the like button, and oh, I love receiving your comments. So until next time, I have some coastal decor coming up for you. See you soon.